Drone racing becomes a sport, Microsoft and Apple report earnings, and a Jeep gets hacked on the highway. Tech News Tonight is next.
This is Twit.
This is Tech News Tonight, episode 385 for Tuesday, July 21st, 2015. This episode of Tech News Tonight is brought to you by Wealthfront. Wealthfront is a low-cost automated investment service that's the most sophisticated way for you to invest your money. Whether you've got millions or you're just starting out, visit wealthfront.com/TN2 to sign up and get your free personalized investment portfolio. That's wealthfront.com/TN2. Welcome. I am Megan Maroney. Let's get to today's big news. Microsoft posted earnings today. They announced revenue of $22.2 billion and commercial revenue growth of 88%. They also reported a 5.1% loss in the latest quarter. That is their biggest quarterly loss ever. Microsoft blamed the loss on continued weak PC demand, but it's hard to forget Microsoft's recent $7.6 billion write-down of Nokia, a company that was purchased for $9 billion only 2 years ago. TechCrunch Microsoft expert Alex Wilhelm says factors like falling phone revenues are mostly balanced by growth in consumer and corporate cloud sectors. Apple also reported earnings today. The company posted quarter revenue of $49.6 billion. Profits rose 38%, revenue rose 33%, and sales of iPhones are still rising at ludicrous speed, up 59% over last year. Apple CEO Tim Cook said they had an amazing quarter due to the, quote, iPhone sales, strong sales of Mac, all-time record revenue from services driven by the App Store, and a great start for the Apple Watch, end quote. Nobody expected us to get numbers for how many Apple Watches the company has sold, and we did not get them. But in an interview, Chief Financial Officer Luca Maestri did say that sales have exceeded internal expectations. Now, stocks of Apple stock fell in after-hours trading, which the Associated Press is attributing to the parsing of numbers that Apple did reveal. On the earnings call, Apple reported $2.6 billion in revenue from that other segment that includes the watch and other products. That $2.6 billion is about $952 million more than the previous quarter when the watch had not yet gone on sale. So that $952 million is well under the $1.8 billion that was estimated previously in watch sales. But who cares? Apple is still sitting on a record-breaking pile of cash, a pile which now amounts to over $202 billion. Today, Wired reports the ease at which hackers can take control of your car while you are driving it. Andy Greenberg agreed to be a digital crash dummy so security researchers could test the car hacking research they'd been doing over the past year. While Greenberg drove a Jeep Cherokee on a highway in St. Louis, researchers used a zero-day exploit to wirelessly take control of the Jeep in order to blow cold air through the air conditioning, change the radio stations, and even kill the steering, brakes, and transmission, all from a laptop across the country. Chrysler has already released a patch for the vulnerability. Coming up, U.S. national drone racing, the first commercial drone delivery, and is it a drone or a quadcopter? But first, let's talk about investing. If you've been in the working world for a while, you probably have money scattered all over the place from personal accounts, old job retirement accounts, joint accounts, and other investment accounts. Now, I have been wanting to get my finances in order for a while, but I can't ever decide if I should go to a financial planner from a bank or an independent financial planner or just take it all and shove it under my mattress. When I heard that Wealthfront was going to be an advertiser for this show, and when they started to explain to me what they did, I got excited because it seemed like exactly what I needed. Unfortunately, I cannot use Wealthfront because they are a sponsor, and that would be a conflict of interest. But it would not be a conflict of interest for you, so let me explain to you what they explained to me. Traditional advisors charge huge fees between 1% and 3% of what you've got under management, plus hidden fees for transactions and changes. Wealthfront gives you access to long-term investment management, and you can get started investing today at a minimum of $500. Signing up at wealthfront.com takes just a few minutes, and it goes right to work monitoring your portfolios round the clock and taking action as soon as an opportunity arises. So whether you're investing for retirement or a different long-term goal, Wealthfront automatically rebalances your portfolio and reinvests your dividends, all commission-free. With Wealthfront, you pay 0.25% a year. That's 25 basis points, 0 commissions, and no hidden fees. That's less than $5 a month to invest a $30,000 account. There are no additional charges for any of Wealthfront's services. Visit wealthfront.com/TN2 to sign up and get your free personalized investment portfolio. You'll see the customized allocation they recommend for your profile. And just for Twit listeners, if you sign up to invest, Wealthfront will manage your first $15,000 entirely free of charge for life. Claim your offer at wealthfront.com/TN2. For compliance purposes, I have to tell you that Wealthfront Incorporated is an SEC-registered investment advisor. Brokerage services are offered through Wealthfront Brokerage Corporation, member FINRA, and SIPC. This is not a solicitation to buy or sell securities. Investing in securities involves risk, and there is a possibility of losing money. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Please visit wealthfront.com to read their full disclosure. The winner of the first U.S. National Drone Racing Championship has been crowned at the California State Fair in Sacramento. Joining us to talk about drone racing as well as a few other drone stories is Mike Murphy, technology reporter for Quartz. Welcome, Mike.
Hi, how are you?
I am good. So tell us about this inaugural competition.
Sure. So it was in the excruciating heat of the Sacramento sun on Thursday and Friday. During the event, there were 3 different events going on at once. There was drone racing, team racing, and then freestyle. So it was kind of like a drone X Games, if you will. But basically the way it works is the racers all build their own drones, basically from scratch to their own specifications. And then they use a camera on the drones, which transmits a video feed back to a set of goggles so they can actually see what the drone is seeing. And this new type of racing is called FPV, or first-person view. So as you can see in this video, these racers are actually seeing themselves fly down the courses, almost like in Star Wars with the pod racing, which is what it's been compared to a lot.
Yeah. So they built the drones. Did they build the goggles too, or those were?
No, the goggles are mainly made by a company called Fat Shark, who also happen to be one of the biggest sponsors there. They're kind of like. The CEO of Fat Shark wouldn't call them VR goggles, but they're basically goggles that can show you video from something else. So make of that what you will.
So do they sell those on the market? Like, could I buy those for my GoPro that I put on something?
You can. You need to have a bit of a background right now in electrical engineering to figure out how to solder the right things together. But yeah, anyone can buy the goggles. I think the newest ones are about $200, and they're decreasing in price as more people get interested.
Cool. So who won the competition?
It was won by Chad Novak of Australia, which is pretty funny in and of itself, considering it was supposed to be the first U.S. National championship. But considering it's the first one, they were basically letting anyone come in from all over. He won all 3 competitions. He won the fastest time. He won as part of the winning team, and he won the freestyle event.
So was it his drone that was faster, or was he just better at piloting it?
So when I spoke to him, he told me that he put it down to having a really good video feed that day. A lot of the racers were crashing because there was a lot of, I wouldn't say it was like technical issues like, the event pretty much went off without a hitch, but a lot of people seem to be having issues not getting a great video feed the whole time. The way that they transmit from their drones to their goggles is analog. So there was a lot of like crossing over of streams and things like that. But he said over the course of the 3 days, he had a really good feed. So he wasn't actually the fastest after the first day's time trials. I think he was 6th or something. But he just had the most reliable feed. So he was able to just go slow and steady winning the race sort of thing.
So in that video, I saw a lot of men. Were there any women that were piloting drones there?
There were a couple. There was actually one. Her name is Zoe that we actually followed. We're doing a short documentary on her, and she's from Santa Cruz and was one of the first women to ever win a drone racing event. Unfortunately, she was one of the ones who was having some technical issues, so she didn't place as highly as she probably would have liked to. We got to see her practice in a field in Santa Cruz the week before, and she was doing some crazy stuff. But yeah, for the most part, it was a pretty male-heavy event, but I don't know. I think that that could just be because of right now. It's like kind of this like techie nerdy thing, and it's kind of going along with like pre-existing stereotypes. But as the sport grows, as more people get interested in, I think it'll balance out.
So you said you're doing a documentary film about her?
A little one, yeah. It's going to be probably about 10 minutes. I went over with one of our videographers, Jacob, who basically got in everybody's grill for the whole 2 days and filmed the whole thing really well. He was the one who made that video that we just put up. So yeah, look out for a longer piece on some of the characters that were at the drone racing championship.
So do you think they're going to do it again next year?
Yeah, I think so. Scott Refsland, who's the organizer of the event, told me that the California State Fair, who hosted this, have first right of refusal to do it again. I don't know if it's going to be there. Scott suggested maybe it could be a traveling thing, like a P.T. Barnum sort of thing from state fair to state fair. But I really hope, for the sake of the sport, that they don't do it somewhere where it's 105 degrees again next year.
Yeah, or maybe not in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
So drone stories are usually not as feel-good as this. I mean, a lot of mainstream media is suspect of these things flying in the air. Partly the name drone doesn't sound very good. Today, 2 assemblymen in California introduced a bill that would allow firefighters to ground drones if they got in the way of firefighting or air ambulance or search and rescue operations. This comes in the wake of hobbyist drones interrupting the work of aerial firefighters attempting to put out a wildfire in San Bernardino, California. Do you have any idea what they mean by the right to ground them? Are they going to shoot them out of the air?
I would hope not, but I know that there have been a lot of people who have said similar things in the past. I remember there was one, I think he was a police chief in Colorado, who wanted to issue drone hunting licenses for his city. And, that comes out of that kind of like, we're not quite sure what to do with these things. They seem pretty scary, and they all have cameras, sort of scare tactics that we see a lot in the media. Mm-hmm. But in this particular case, I don't know. I'm kind of inclined to agree. I don't know if they're going to shoot them out of the sky, but if there was a burning building, you wouldn't walk in front of the firefighter and start taking pictures and get in his way. So I think it's kind of a dumb thing to do to be flying drones where people are just trying to help other people.
Right. I mean, no one was injured in this case that we know of. So, but they did have to, get rid of their payload and land their planes and not help as they were instructed to do. So what were they worried about? What kind of damage could a quadcopter do to a helicopter or another aerial firefighter?
I think it's the same kind of issues that anything in the sky could do. We've had some really unfortunate incidents with birds hitting jet engines and that sort of thing. And it would be the same thing if a drone managed to get, into an engine or a helicopter's flight path, that sort of thing. It could stop the rotors, knock the aircraft out of the sky. But, I mean, for the most part, you're supposed to be flying drones under 400 feet high or 400 feet in the sky. So, in that case, it might have just been line of sight issues, or it might have been radio frequency issues that they were, because a lot of the drones use Wi-Fi and GPS signals to communicate with whoever's controlling them. So it could have been communications issues as well. I'm not sure.
Right. So like anything, I mean, not all drone enthusiasts are idiots. These ones that were following the aerial firefighters were not so smart. The ones that fly over the White House, also not so smart. So don't do those two things. So you also reported on the first commercial drone delivery that happened last week. What was delivered and where?
I did. So it was in Virginia. Interestingly enough, at another fairground. Drones and fairgrounds seem to be a big thing this week. But it was the first test that had been sanctioned by the FAA, and they were delivering medical supplies to a pop-up clinic in Virginia, in a remote part of the state. It was a 35-mile trip that's usually done by a car over some winding roads that apparently can take well over an hour to drive. And this drone did the last mile of that trip totally fine. Made the drop, as you can see here. It lowered it kind of like a drop from a helicopter and military supplies, that sort of thing. But the preceding 35 miles were actually done by a different kind of drone. NASA was involved in the project, and they've been working on a modified little one-engine plane that can be flown remotely, like a drone. but it had a person on it this time. But that flew the majority of the flight because, as the CEO of the company that did the test told me, his name was Matt Sweeney of Flirty. He told me that drones right now, they can't really fly that long just because of battery technology today. As batteries get bigger and that sort of thing, drones will be able to fly for longer periods of time. But it flew for a mile with no problems whatsoever.
Yeah, so in your article, you say it was about 9 minutes long. So they're saying that there is a future. They will be able to fly longer once the batteries are bigger.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Right now, that's pretty much the only thing holding back longer flights. I think eventually you'd get into communications issues. You'd have to think of new ways to make sure you're still always talking to the drone. But right now, the FAA says you basically have to fly within the line of sight of the drone. So as long as you can see the drone, which is obviously a big hindrance if you're trying to deliver something that's far away, and the plans that Amazon have to deliver things by drone, obviously they're not going to be delivering. All of their delivery stations aren't going to be a mile from their customers. But this test actually showed that things can be done safely with drones delivering things farther than a person can see them.
So the FAA allowed this one delivery. They're kind of moving slowly. They haven't finalized their regulations for any flying drones in public yet, have they?
No. The regulations, they said they hope to have them within the next year, which is a pretty vague time frame. They said that about a month ago. So I'll ask them in 11 months if we haven't heard anything. But yeah, they're working through the machinations of basically how we add drones to the public airspace. Whatever they come up with, it's going to be from the part of the airspace that's basically 0 feet to 400 feet. And drones will operate somewhere in that airspace. Obviously, there's all kinds of issues with making sure drones are nowhere near people, and making sure that there's any kind of safety issues are worked out. But when I spoke to Matt Sweeney, the CEO of the company that did the drone test last week, he doesn't think that they're going to have figured out, the FAA isn't going to have figured out how to get drone delivery set up and codified and regulated within the next year. He thinks that will come at a later point. He was pretty optimistic and said the year after. But at the end of the day, it's going to take a lot of, writing really dry rules and regulations and putting infrastructure in place to get that sort of thing up and running. I mean, it's like a miniature version of trying to get the whole air traffic control system up. So I don't know. It could well take longer.
Right. And the stories we heard about today, we heard another story. The Guardian reported that a federal investigation is happening into an 18-year-old who attached a handgun to a quadcopter and then posted a video on YouTube of the gun firing shots from the quadcopter. Now, the kid isn't saying anything, but his father says everyone should just calm down and stop calling it a quadcopter and start calling it a quadcopter and not a drone. He thinks using the word drone is what is scaring people, not the fact that it's remotely shooting a gun. Do you think that there's starting to become this kind of divide between drone enthusiasts and everyone else?
I'm not sure. I mean, it's funny, the whole drone quadcopter issue. Everyone at the Drone Nationals, even though it's called Drone Nationals, was very quick to say that these are quadcopters or these are multi-rotor copters, it just doesn't roll off the tongue as easily as drones. So I don't know if I think drones is what we've got now, even if it's a loaded word right now. But I think pretty much when it comes to consumer drones or things you're building yourself, it's pretty much the same adage of guns don't kill people, yeah, people do. But I don't know. I think if you put a gun on anything, it's going to be pretty scary. If I put a gun on a robot and shoot it, is it the robot's fault? I don't know. I think it was funny. I saw the video. I was really jacked up about having been at the Drone Nationals and seeing all these people so happy about racing with their friends and everyone kind of enjoying themselves. And I got home and I saw that someone attached a gun to a drone. I was like, well, I've kind of seen both sides of things today. I think there'll always just be silly people doing silly things, right. But this isn't exactly a predator drone.
No. Yeah, I mean, people have been doing ridiculous things like this, but now we have YouTube so that we can all see it very quickly right after it happens. Yeah. So what is your favorite drone right now?
I think I'm really interested in the ones that people are making themselves. I mean, there's one, I think it's by Immersion RC. who's one of the companies that sponsored the Drone Nationals. That's called the Vortex, which is one of these really fast ones that you can build yourself. But when it comes to the ones that you can buy at Best Buy and that sort of thing, I'm inclined to go with Parrot, the French company. They were at the Drone Nationals as well. I think for the price point, if you're just interested in flying a drone, taking some nice footage, theirs are probably a good entry point because they're well made and they're under $1,000. But if you want to spend a lot of money, the DJI drones, who's another big competitor out of China, their new Phantom 3 is a pretty cool drone. I got to see the launch of that. They floated it in the press room, and it's like, well, that's pretty neat. I'm not sure if it's worth over $1,000 for the average person to go out and buy one, but if you've got the money, it's pretty cool.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Mike Murphy is a technology reporter at Quartz, and he's on Twitter at MCWM. Thanks for coming on.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Take care. And that's it for this edition of Tech News Tonight. We're on Facebook at www.facebook.com/technewstonight with the number 2. If you like us, you can get links to the show when it's posted and links to the stories we're going to talk about throughout the day. And if you want to be part of the conversation, you can post a comment on the stories on Facebook. We'll read the best comments right here on this show. You can also contact me via Twitter at Megan Maroney. That's what @AncientT did when he took issue with something I reported in our story last night about the hack of the adultery site Ashley Madison. I said that the people who used Ashley Madison to find someone to have an affair with weren't actually doing anything illegal. Ancient T, father and geek from Dallas, asked, did you Google? Because I did, and Google says adultery is illegal in some states, felony and jail, illegal in Massachusetts. Well, thank you @Ancient T. I did not Google this yesterday, but I did spend a fair amount of time Googling, is adultery legal today? And now I'm convinced that Google really has the wrong idea about my life path. However, you appear to be correct. Adultery is illegal in varying degrees in some countries and in some parts of the U.S. I talked to This Week in Law host Denise Howell about this, and although she doesn't do criminal law, she will be covering the Ashley Madison hack this week and pointed me to a Wikipedia article on the topic that we will post in the show notes in case you are interested. And if you want to weigh in on this or any of our other stories more privately than Facebook or Twitter, you can email us at tn2@twit.tv. And if you like the show, please subscribe for free at twit.tv/tn2 or on iTunes or on Spotify or on your favorite podcast app on your favorite mobile device. And don't forget to watch live every weekday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And don't miss our morning news program, Tech News Today, every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm Megan Maroney. Thanks for watching.
Bandwidth for Tech News Tonight is brought to you by CashFly.com.